Veblen giving tried to explain as the philanthropic donations made primarily to gain social status and prestige, where the perceived value of the gift increases with its size and public visibility. The form of giving is characterized by high-profile, large-scale donations that serve not only charitable purposes, but also, public displays of wealth, social status, moral virtue. Its origins are from the Thorstein Veblen, the American economist, like a Veblen good. I have just, made it toward Veblen giving. And I did this because I was trying to find a catchy way to talk about something that has frankly existed for well over 100 years, where it is being consolidated. It is more and more that fewer people are giving more dollars. So though total donations are increasing, the number of participants giving money is decreasing. I see it in Giving Tuesday data. I see it at a macro level from the USA Giving Foundation when they come out with numbers. And looking at it, I think it speaks to a bigger narrative. And if you compare 1983 breakdown of US giving, you get 82% of total giving in 1983 coming from individuals. Fast forward to 2023, the last snapshot of data we have from USA Giving, we have 66%. Yes, it's the rise of other things, but make no mistake, it's a decrease in individual giving. Yet the total amount increases. And part of me, shake your fist at the sky, fine. And certainly Veblen himself in his original works talked about how he disliked the fact that this was, the conspicuous consumption, he called it, for wealthy people to sort of have this moral ability to just sort of buy reputation via philanthropy. He was not a fan, and that was 100 years ago, Gilded Age. And now I think it is entering a more extreme version. And getting back to why I wanted to talk about this is that at its core, when you sell a Veblen good, something whose price increases, whose value increases as price increases, these luxury goods, think of a McLaren, which is a very expensive car, which people pay pointless amounts of money for, versus an M&M, which frankly we maybe buy too many of and consume too many of, the everyman snack. When you sell an M&M, it's very different than when you sell a Veblen good. And so when you think of our philanthropy, when you think of your strategy, your communications, especially in giving season, I think this subtle shift toward, are we selling a non-Veblen or Veblen good, matters quite a bit, and factoring in the elements of Veblen giving to your strategy. So this is not to say you're going to reverse the fact that 1% of Americans have 99% of the wealth. It's just that this is the game we play. And I believe if you have at least 1,000 people in your list, in your donors or in your email list, if you have 1,000 people, 1% of those humans, those 10 people, they have 99% of the wealth. But if you message everyone the same way, you may be missing out and, in effect, trying to sell M&Ms to someone who's willing to buy a McLaren.
George, that's such a great analogy there. And, we grew up in New York. Half of New York's cultural institutions were named by guys with Carnegie or JP Morgan or something like that, and Rockefeller. Right. So, but you know what? They're now bedrocks of what makes New York City great. You can talk about, Gilded Age and do we really need gold-plated libraries? But you know what? I'm glad we have it. So I think that's a good point. And thinking about donors. And of course, there's donor scraping tools out there and ways to find high net wealth individuals and message them specifically. But as we get into this decreased number of participants and an increase in concentrated wealth, I think that's a good point. George, I couldn't help, though, but be struck to the point that I think this is a cultural shift. I think it began before the pandemic, accelerated with the pandemic. But I think this goes into decreases in people engaging with centers of community, like churches. People decreased engagement in volunteering. I think that's the thing. I think we're just a little bit more insulated as a society, maybe from these kinds of problems, a little bit more individualistic perceptions of the world. So that's my philosophical reason for why I think the number of donors is not going up as high, even though the value of donations is. But Really
Yeah.
interesting term. Thanks, George.
Yeah, I think, I'm not about, again, sort of saying like, oh, lamenting this. It's just, it is. It's like, hey, here's gravity. Would you like to play by these rules, or would you like to consider these rules? I'd say not playing by, but considering these rules in your communication strategy, in your high net worth giving communication segmentation. I think it matters, and the data certainly back it up. Saving the critique on this, I also put extra words to the like, here are the ethical considerations of this, which are many, in the longer article, which you can go find in the show notes. Or, hey, it's a free email. It goes out every week, nonprofitnewsfeed.com.
Oh my gosh. It's like free rainbows, George.